Hello students, a very good morning to all. In this video, we'll be discussing the important numerical problems which from your first unit, that is atomic structure. So these are the type of numericals which can be asked in your exams, which are important from the examination point of view and as well as the competition point of view. So let's get started. So the first question is calculate the de Broglie wavelength of an electron. Mass is given, mass of the electron, this is well known. Generally, mass of the electron, speed of the light and the value of Planck's constant are given in your questions, but for in case if these values are not given, it is recommended that you memorize these values for the mass of the electron, mass of the proton, Planck's constant. These are the very basic values which you need to know before attempting the numericals based upon the de Broglie relationship. So the question is, let's get back to the question. Calculate the de Broglie wavelength of electron. Mass is given, moving at 1% of the speed of light. So speed of light is not given. Speed of light, you must know that it is 3 into 10 raised to power 8 meter per second. So this is the value of speed of light. Yeah. So this is the value of speed of light. 1% means 1 by 100 will be multiplied by 3 into 10 raised to power 8. So the electron which this question is talking in this, which is talked about in this question, is moving with this speed. So velocity, we know this is the formula for de Broglie wavelength which we need to calculate. Formula is h upon mv. Here h is Planck's constant whose value is known. The units of all the values are very important, as you must use the same unit system for the calculation part, as if mass is given here in grams, then you will have to convert it into kilograms. So mass is known, velocity is known, and you know the value of Planck's constant, which is equal to 6.63 into 10 to the minus 34 kg meter square per second. So from here, lambda can be calculated. Lambda comes out to be 2.43 into 10 raised to the minus 10. I want you all to try solving these questions. Some of these questions I've already solved. Some of these questions I've left for you to solve. I'll be discussing each question. There are almost around 20 questions which we'll be discussing. These are all from your first unit, that is atomic structure. So the second question is calculate the lambda for the helium atom. So here the it is mentioned that the atom we are talking about is helium. So we have to calculate the wavelength for helium atom moving with velocity. Velocity is given and we'll have to calculate the value of wavelength. So for wavelength, formula is again h upon mv. Lambda is equal to h upon mv. So for the calculation part, we need to know the value of Planck's constant that we know, that we have already memorized, h upon mv. We know the value of velocity v, and one thing which is left is m. So here it is mentioned that the atom is helium. So for helium atom, atomic mass is 4 AMU. 4 AMU is the mass of how many atoms? Avogadro number of atoms. So 4 AMU is the mass of 4 gram is the mass of 6.023 into 10 raised to 23 atoms. So that means mass of one atom is going to be 4 divided by Avogadro number. So from here we get the value of mass of helium atom, which comes in grams as unit. We'll convert it to kilogram, as 1 kilogram is equal to 1000 grams. Then we'll put the value of this mass which we have calculated into this formula and we'll get the value of lambda. These conversions, you must know that 10 raised to power minus 9 we can write it as nanometer, 10 raised to power minus 12 we can write it as picometer, 10 raised to power minus 10 is angstrom. So these are the conversions which you are considered, which you must know from your plus 1 plus 2 part. So the third question is electron with kinetic energy. So kinetic energy of the electron is given. Kinetic value of kinetic energy is 1.822 into 10 raised to power minus 24 joules, and we'll have to calculate the de Broglie wavelength. So from the value of kinetic energy, as we know, the formula is half mv square. Mass of electron we already know, and velocity, whenever there is talk about electron. So for electron, we must know the values of mass, charge, and speed of light we must know. So from here we can calculate the value of velocity. So from here, as we all know that uh, it can be expressed, the energy unit of joule can be expressed in terms of kg meter square per second square. So here velocity is going to be there in meter per second. So from here, if we know the value of mass, we'll put the value of mass, we know the value of kinetic energy. From here, we can calculate the value of V, that is velocity, that we need for the calculation of wavelength, that is de Broglie wavelength, based upon the formula H upon mv. Mass of electron we know, H is Planck's constant. So from here, I want you all to calculate lambda, and the value is going to come equal to 181 nanometer. Next question is, calculate the de Broglie wavelength for an electron which has been accelerated from the rest to potential difference of. So everywhere we are calculating the value of de Broglie wavelength, but the framing of the question is different, the sense of the question is different, and the constants which are given are different. So based upon those values, based upon this discussion, after this discussion, you'll be able to calculate, you will be able to solve all the numericals for based upon your first unit, that is atomic structure. So we will be discussing all the possible aspects of the numericals in this video. So next question is, calculate the de Broglie lambda for an electron which has been accelerated from rest through potential difference of 1 keV. So potential difference is given, that means if potential difference is given and potential difference when multiplied by the charge of the electron, which we already know, which this value, that charge of electron is 1.6 into 10 to the minus 9 coulomb, 19 coulombs is well known. And when we multiply coulomb into volts, the energy becomes equal to 1 joule. So from here, if potential difference of 1 kV means 1 kilovolt, so 1 kilovolt has 1000 volts of potential. So from here, if we equate it to half mv square, that is kinetic energy, from here we can calculate the value of velocity. As we know, rest all the values. So from here, velocity can be calculated, which we need for the calculation of lambda. So all this thing is given for the calculation of velocity. It's a bit tricky question that you are given the potential energy, which is equal to the kinetic energy is there for the electron at the expense of this potential energy, that electron has been accelerated with from rest to the potential difference of 1 kV. So from here you can calculate the value of lambda. For solving all the questions, you must consider looking at the units. So units are very important. You must know that you must keep all the units in the SI system or in the CGS system. So if something is given, you must know that what unit goes with what unit. So like meter per second is there, then mass should be in kilograms. It cannot be in grams in SI system. So these basics you must know, that what units are to be kept for mass, what units are to be kept for speed, what units are to be kept for energy. So next question is, if velocity of electron in Bohr's first orbit is, so velocity of electron is given, and again you have to calculate lambda. So it is a simple question that lambda is going to be h upon mv. So from here, value of h you know, mass you know for the electron, and v it is already given. So lambda you can calculate very easily. Next question is, calculate the kinetic energy of moving electron which has lambda is equal to 4.5 picometer. So here lambda is given, 4.5 picometer means 4.5 into 10 to the minus 12 meters. So here you will convert this thing to first meters, then you are given the value of lambda. From here you can calculate the value of velocity. Then we'll put this value of velocity in this formula for kinetic energy, which you have to calculate, that is half mv square, and from here you will get energy value in joules. Next question is, Find out the number of waves made by Bohr electron in one complete revolution in its third orbit. So number of waves are equal to, as we all know that n lambda is equal to 2 pi r. When we discussed about the stationary wave feature of the electron wave, that it acts as a stationary wave and the waves are in phase to each other. So circumference is equal to n lambda. So from here lambda is equal to h upon mv. From here n comes out to be 2 pi into mvr divided by h, and mvr we can put as angular momentum. So based upon the fact that angular momentum of the electron is quantized, and which comes out to be equal to nh upon 2 pi. So from here value of n can be taken, and the value of n is 3, which is also clear from, as they have already mentioned, that it is a third orbit. So n is going to be 3 for third orbit. So from here also, based upon the quantization of angular momentum, we have got the value of n. Next is an electron is moving with kinetic energy is given. So here kinetic energy is given in terms of electron volts. So here you must know this conversion factor. I have already discussed with you, shared with you the important formulas used in the whole unit, that is atomic structure, and important conversions which you are to memorize, that 1 joule is equal to 1 coulomb volt, 1 newton into meter, and kg meter square per second square, and 1 electron volt is equal to how many joules, that is 1.602 into 10 to the minus 19 joules. So these are the values you must know, these are the interconversions. So from here kinetic energy is half mv square and the units are electron volts. So you will first convert it to joules and then calculate lambda using this relationship. Otherwise you will have to convert the Planck's constant. You cannot take its value as 6.63 into 10 to the minus 34 if you are keeping the kinetic energy in electron volts. So you will first have to convert kinetic energy into joules, then only you can use this relationship for solving the value of getting the value of lambda. So next type of question is calculate the ratio between lambda of electron and lambda of proton. So here you have to calculate the ratio of wavelength of electron and wavelength of proton, and you are given the masses of both and a relationship between the velocity of both, that proton is moving with velocity half of that of electron. So what we'll do is we'll write it as lambda E divided by lambda P is equal to, we'll write their formula, will represent mass of electron as me, velocity of electron as ve, and mp and vp are the mass and velocity of protons. So from here h will cancel out as this is constant. The value of masses we already know. Here the mass of proton is given in grams, but here the mass of electron is given in kg. So you will have to convert first this mass into kilograms. So it will come out to be 1.67 into 10 raised to power 27 kilograms. So from here you will be able to calculate the ratio of velocities you are given. So from here you will be able to calculate the ratio of wavelengths of electron to that of proton. So this is an easy question but bit tricky. When would be the lambda associated with an electron becomes equal to lambda associated with proton? So for this question you will be given the masses. So they are asking about the relationship between velocity, that at what speed lambda of electron is going to be equal to lambda of proton. So what we'll do is we'll equate both the lambdas and we'll find out the relation between VE and VP. So for answer here, the answer will come out as, you will have to solve this by yourself. You will put the values of masses, you will have to put the values of lambda as equal. So from here you will get a relationship, or you'll get a value of VE in terms of VP. So that is going to be your answer, that when VE is going to be, the answer is, say suppose the answer is coming out to be x, so you will write it as when velocity of electron is x times to that of velocity of proton, then At that point, lambda associated with an electron becomes equal to lambda associated with proton. Next we have kinetic energy is given, and you will have to calculate the value of frequency of wave. So as we all know that frequency of wave is related to energy as E is equal to h nu. So if energy is given, Planck's constant you know, so from here you can easily calculate frequency. This is an easy question. Next we have questions based upon Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So for this you are given the value of mass, you have to calculate the uncertainty in its velocity if uncertainty in position is plus minus 10 picometers. So uncertainty is mostly mentioned in terms of plus minus. If it is mentioned in terms of plus minus, the second uncertainty which you are calculating, you will also answer it in the form of plus minus. So the formula is for Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is delta x into delta p is greater than equal to h upon 4 pi. So this multiplication term is at least equal to h upon 4 pi. So from here, you know the uncertainty in position, it is already given. So picometer you will have to convert into meters first. Then mass you know as delta P is equal to mass into delta V. So from here you will calculate the value of delta V as the right side of the equation is constant. That is h you already know 4 pi is 4 into pi and value of pi is 3.14. So from here you will get the value of velocity which will come into the terms of plus minus. You will write it as plus minus and the value. Calculate the product of uncertainty in displacement and velocity for an electron of mass. So mass is given. That means you have to calculate the product of delta x into delta p. So mass you will take to this side and this whole thing is constant, and so you will answer it as that whenever the product of uncertainty in displacement and velocity must be greater than this value, you will have to answer it as this. So next question is, if velocity is given to you, velocity is 300 meter per second, mass of the electron is given, calculate the uncertainty in position if the uncertainty in velocity is, the velocity is given, not uncertainty in velocity. So uncertainty in velocity is a condition. First is 0.001% of v. So 0.001% means 1 by 1 lakh times you will multiply it with 300. So it comes out to be, delta V comes out to be 0.003 meter per second. So from here you will calculate the value of delta x. So value delta x must be greater than or equal to this value, as the uncertainty in velocity is given to you with certainty. That means position you will have to define in uncertainty, that is greater than or equal to term. So next is if delta V is 0. So if uncertainty in uncertainty in velocity is given to you as 0, that means position is having an uncertainty of infinity, because here in this term delta V, if you put this denominator term as 0, that means this whole term is going to become infinite. Next question is, if uncertainty in the position and velocity of a particle are, so both the uncertainties in position and velocity are given to you. You have to calculate the particle of mass. So you'll use the relation, that is delta x into m delta v. You are given the value of delta x and delta v. You know these values h upon 4 pi, and you have to calculate mass from this equation. Just take care of the units. Units are very important to be taken care of. The next topic on which the numerical parts, numericals are important, are the quantum numbers. So next we have questions on quantum numbers. So the question is, which of the following sets of quantum numbers are impossible for an electron in an atom and why? So as there are 4 set of quantum numbers, n that is principal quantum number, l is azimuthal quantum number, m is magnetic quantum number, and s is spin quantum number. N represents the shell, L represents the subshell. Values of L can be 0 to n minus 0 to 1 n minus 1, and M is magnetic quantum number, whose values can be minus L to plus L, including 0. then values of S can be plus half and minus half. Let us see which of the four sets of quantum numbers are possible and which is not. So let us see the first one. First one is for the value of n, it is 4. That means shell number is 4. For that, value of L as 2 is possible because L can have value 0 to n minus 1. So 2 is possible. And M can be minus 2 to plus 2. 0 is also possible for that. And spin is plus half. So this set of quantum numbers is possible. So we have written here P. So this is possible. Next we have value of n as 3. And possible values of L are going to be 0 to n minus 1. That means 0 to 2. So value of L as 3 is not possible for n as 3. So this quantum number set is not possible. Next we have 4, that is n is 4, and values of L can be 0 to n minus 1. So it is possible, value of L. Next we see for M can be 1 based upon if so n is 4. Based upon this, L can be 0 to n minus 1, that is 0, 1, 2 and 3. So for the value of M, we have if L is 0, that means M must be 0. M can have values minus L to plus L. So it can have just the value as 0. So for given value of L, M as 1 is not possible. So this quantum set of quantum number is not possible for an electron. Next we have n as 3. That means principal shell number is 3. Further L is 2. That means 0 to n minus 1. Okay, this is possible. The values of M can be minus L to plus L. Thus, yes, this is the minus 2 value of M is also possible. But spin can only be plus half or minus half. It can never be 0. So this set is also not possible. So the only possible set out of these four sets is for quantum number is 1. First one. Next is an electron is in 4f orbital. What are the possible values of quantum numbers it can have? So for 4f orbital, value of n is 4. L can have possible values of 0 to n minus 1, that is 0 to 3. So values can be 0, 1, 2 and 3. Let us see the values of M. So for 0, it is going to be 0. For 1, it is going to be minus 1, 0 and 1. For 2, it is going to be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. For 3, it is going to be minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2 and 3. Yes. So the overall values of M which are possible are minus 3, which is included in all these values is minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2 and 3. So these are the 7 values, possible values of M for given values of L. So S can always be plus half and minus half for given M. So these are the possible values of all the four quantum numbers for 4f orbital. Next question is which of the following orbital is not possible? So let us see 1p. So 1p means n value of n is 1 and value of L, possible values of L is 0 to n minus 1. That means only 0. For 0, that means subshell should be S. So here P subshell is not possible. So this is not possible. Let us see for 2s. For 2s, n is 2. L can have values 0 to n minus 1. That means 0 and 1. So 2s and 2p are possible. So 2s is there, so it is possible. 2p is also possible for 2. And 3f means n is 3. That means possible values of L are 0, 1 and 2. So for 0, L designation of L is S. For 1, it is P. For 2, it is P. So the possible orbitals are 3s, 3p and 3d, not 3s. So it is not possible. So next question we have, if 5G subshell is possible, how many orbitals are there in it? Let us see if it is possible or not. N is 5, L can be 0 to 4. Let us see, for 0, designation is S, for 1, designation is P, for 2, designation is D, for 3, designation is F, and for 4, designation is G. So it is possible. and values of m can be -4 to +4 including 0. So that means 9 orbitals are there for 5G subshell, and total of 18 electrons can be accommodated in this 5G subshell, because 9 orbital and each orbital can be occupied with maximum of 2 electrons. So total of 18 electrons can be fitted in these 9 orbitals. How many orbitals are there in F and G subshell? For F, L is equal to 3, and number of orbitals is given by 2L plus 1. That means 7 orbitals are there for L is equal to 3 and 9 orbitals are there for L is equal to 4. Which of the following is spherically symmetrical? As we all know that the only subshell which, based upon the shape, which is spherical symmetrical, which are spherically symmetrical, are S orbitals. So for S, the value of L must be 0. So for the subshells for which value of L is 0, those are spherically symmetrical. So these B and C options are spherically symmetrical. Next question is how many high probability. So these questions are based upon radial probability distribution curves. So how many high probability regions and radial nodes and angular nodes are present for these orbitals? This is the question. For 4p orbital, as the formula for high probability region is n minus L. For radial nodes, or we call it simply nodes, the formula is n minus L minus 1. And for angular nodes, we call them nodal planes also. So formula is L, the angular nodes are equal to the value of L. So for here, n is 4, L is 1. So high probability regions are 3. N minus L minus 1 is 2. And for P, value of L is 1. So angular node is going to be 1. For 3s orbital, no angular node. High probability region is 3 minus 0, that is 3. Radial nodes are 3 minus 0 minus 1, that means 2. Here 4 minus 2 are high probability regions, that means 2. 1 is the radial node and 2 are the, based upon the value of L, that is 2, are the angular nodes. So this is how we calculate the high probability regions, radial nodes or nodes, we call them. And the third one is angular node or the nodal planes. So these can be asked under any name. If you are simply asked about nodes, how many nodes are there? That means you are to answer them the radial nodes, not the, you are not supposed to include the angular nodes till it is written the angular node word or the nodal plane word is there. So next question is based upon your electronic configuration. So electronic configuration of any of the elements or ions of the periodic table can be asked. So you'll have to answer based upon some of the exceptions which we have already discussed in your in the electronic configuration section, which we discussed, and also based upon the Aufbau principle, you can write the electronic configuration of any element except for the exceptions, and the exceptions which are going to be asked in exams we have discussed. Only those exceptions can be asked to you in the examinations. So next question is calculate the effective. So this question is based upon the last part, that is the Slater's rule. So you are to calculate the effective nuclear charge for an electron present in 3p orbital of chlorine. So for chlorine, atomic number is 17. So it will be written like this. First you will write the electronic configuration, then you will be making the groups. 1s in one group, 2s and 2p in other group, and 3s and 3p in the third group. There is no 3d electron, so groups are divided. Next we have to calculate for 3p electron. Let us see. So there are 7 electrons. So for 1 we are calculating, that means 6 rest of the electrons will contribute 0.35. These 8 electrons are going to contribute, as they are present in n-1 subshell. 8 electrons are going to contribute 0.85 as it is written here. And these 2 electrons, as these are present in n-2 or the lower, if there is a possibility, they are going to contribute 1. So 2, 6.8 and 2.1. Total is 10.90. As Z is 17, so Z effective comes out to be 6.10. So these are the type of questions which will be asked from you out of this chapter. So that is it for this chapter. With this, our first chapter, that is atomic structure, is finished. In the next chapter is periodicity. Before shifting to the periodicity part, we'll be discussing the periodic table in detail so that you can better understand the periodic trends. So that is it for this video. If you have any doubts in the numericals which we have discussed so far in this video, you can always ask me in the comment section. And also, if you have any additional doubts on the numerical part, you can comment the question in the comment section. I'll definitely answer your query there. And if you find any difficulty, you find any conceptual problem, then also you can ask me there. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much and have a good rest of the day.